Jackson Radio Show.
Where do we start? Holy cow, Donald Trump is just a savings machine. Now, I know this budget it's a belt buster, but he'll get it in check here pretty soon. I believe that. I'm not happy about the budget. You guys have heard me talk about this. By the way, who am I? Kevin Jackson. What are you listening to? The Kevin Jackson Radio Show. KJRadio.com, 844-551-8255. Glad you guys are here talking about secrecy, talking about what the government wants to hide from you. We're also talking about how Donald Trump is exposing all of these different things, how the swamp is being drained. It's going to ultimately end up helping us. We may have to crack a few eggs, some like this budget. We may have to crack a few eggs on a few issues that maybe you don't quite agree with. Maybe you are a little bit queasy on the immigration policy of Donald Trump. I don't know. But whatever it is, understand this. You finally have somebody that cares about you. He may have a roundabout way of negotiating things, but you might just get what you wanted. I'll give you an example. The price of the Air Force One. He reached an agreement with Boeing on a fixed price contract for the new Air Force One program. This, according to Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gigley, and he said the contract going to save taxpayers $1.4 billion. Now, that's a rounding error for government. But you know what? It's $1.4 billion that we don't have to reach in our pockets for. Donald Trump came into this presidency, into his new administration, and he said this. You know what I notice about government spending? Nobody ever checks it. We write checks. Oh, the project slipped a little bit. No problem. Just here's some more money. That's how Democrats solve it. Because the money isn't about the contractors. The contractors are kicking it back. That's why. If there's a cost overrun, we'll get you more money. It'll mean more to your district and so on and so forth. They don't care. Donald Trump said, and I believe this to be true, there hasn't been a government program that's come in on time or on budget for decades, and we've done nothing. Enough is enough. And he begins with something symbolic. This is what you got to love about this dude, man. He understands the pomp and circumstance. Don't start on some obscure program, some missile program nobody knows about. Start with the top. From the top, I don't want a plane that we can build that's going to have a cost overrun. You're going to start with the plane that the president rides in. See, that's something that gets you noticed. Boeing loves it. Oh, it's our civic duty. We shouldn't be making profit on the plane that we give to the president. I heard the spokesperson talking about it. You know, look, this is a plane. I don't know who decided to do this. But back in the day, in the early days of the presidency, we didn't do this. We didn't have a special plane for the presidency, for the president. Now we do. And you know what's happened? Every time they've rebuilt Air Force One, it's gotten more and more and more expensive. Because somebody goes, well, it needs to have this. And it needs to have the ability to, to this. It needs to have a gym. It needs to have, TVs and satellites and all this other stuff. And good, I get it. But, it's a lot of money. And it's a lot of money for something that, quite frankly, we rarely use. We use Air Force One to fly the president around. I get it. But we've never used it rarely use it for the total emergency package. But let's say we have to have it. Understood. But what can we do with the old ones? Can we sell them? Can we get some money back for these Air Force Ones? Take out some of the avionics and Boeing use those jets for something else? I don't know. I'm just trying to be a pragmatist here. Anyway, Trump has said Boeing costs to build replacements for Air Force One of the most visible symbols of the U.S. presidency, were too high. And he said, let's cancel the order. And Boeing got the message. The 747-8s are designed to be airborne, flying the worst case security scenario, nuclear war, blah, 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 modified to the hilt. I get it. But there's no reason why they have to be built for the amount of money that we're paying Boeing. And I'll tell you something else that Boeing does with the president's plane. They look at all the possibilities of what can be done to their aircraft. What do they learn from working on the president's plane that they can apply technologically? See, that's another fallout to that. Anyway, somebody came back and said, he didn't save no $1.4 billion, because that's what the naysayers do. It's only going to be $0.2 billion. It's only going to be this or that. This is what Boeing was going to build it for. And then Boeing came out and said, yep, he negotiated and saved $1.4 billion. Now, I don't know whether it was $200 million or it was actually $1.4 billion. But here's what I do know. Donald Trump symbolically said, we need to cut these programs. We need to take a serious look at them. I don't know what the fallout will be long term, but I predict that every one of these government contracts that's got a cost overrun, those companies are going to eat them. Donald Trump's going to say, you're going to give us a lot more than what you've been giving us because you've been ripping us off for decades. And you know what? It's going to hurt them a little bit in the stocks initially. But we're going to get the swamp drained, even with government subcontractors. Donald Trump's putting out the word, enough is enough. Here's another thing he did that a lot of people overlooked. Donald Trump released his budget on White House personnel, name, status, salary, position, all 377 White House employees. Keep in mind, Donald Trump doesn't take a dime of his salary. He donates it all. He donated it to the Department of Interior. But what was interesting is the savings of Donald Trump over Obama. $35.8 million was his payroll versus $40.9 million under Obama. That's a savings of $5.1 million. Nothing. In the scheme of Washington, that's nothing. But it is something. Because it symbolically shows that yet again, Donald Trump sees himself as a person who needs to watch the budget. Here's what it means, and I'll give you the numbers. 110 fewer employees on the White House staff under Trump than under Obama at this point in their respective presidencies. 19 fewer staffers dedicated to the First Lady of the United States. 5 staffers dedicated to Melania versus 24 dedicated to Michelle Obama. And of course, the fact that Donald Trump donates his $400,000 to charity. Now, he did it to the Department of Interior initially, and then he's moving it around. But you get the point. See, folks, this is what leadership is about. He shows you. It isn't, hey, I'm going to talk about it. Barack Obama talked about a freeze and all these things he was going to do in D.C. The best money to be made is working for the Obama government. And then it's even more lucrative when you get out. Donald Trump said, no. We are going to, I don't need 110 of these people. Melania says, I don't need 24 staffers. I need 5. Donald Trump said, I want to make sure that the next president rides in a plane that costs less than the one I ride in, and certainly not for ego, which people would probably blame him for. This is a guy that gets it. And what's funny is, because he gets it, Washington is on red alert. They are afraid for their sorry lives, their money-grubbing lives, because here's a guy that wants to watch those pennies.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.